Hello everybody, this is Pitch Goblin here, and welcome back to the Skulls General Reviews, episode 9, in which today I'm going to be taking a look at Original Sin by Andy Lane. Let's begin this review of Original Sin by taking a look at the cover art. But before I go on to that, I just want to quickly say that there is going to be spoilers in this review, because we don't want to talk about this surprise return character, and I'm going to be detailing how he returns as well, and not only spoiling the character but detailing how he returns as well. So there is going to be spoilers in this review. However, that's going to be at the end of when I've gone through the book in like a non-spoiler fashion, and I will add a skip time just for the spoiler part of this review. So you can skip ahead to the end of the review when I overrate it and some overall conclusion on the book, just in case you don't want to see spoilers. But anyways, now let's begin this review by taking a look at the cover art. So we have the New Doctor Who Adventures, Original Sin, Andy Lane, and then for the cover art image itself, which is wonderful, underneath this kind of sky, or kind of early evening kind of sunset sky, we have like a little strip of a pinky kind of neon type thing, which reminds me of the Arctic lights a little bit. Then here you've got a few little bubbles, and down here you've got a mountain range with some really kind of creepy plant slash foliage stuff right there, with these little branches all hanging out which look like claws or something. Then here you've got an ice structure. Then here you've got a bit of a plateau of different plants and stuff. Then in the front of itself, and then for the centre, then taking up the foreground of this cover, we have Christopher Quedge and Rosalind Forrester arresting the Seventh Doctor. And then on the spine of this book we have Original Sin, which you can just about see there, Andy Lane, and the Doctor Who logo down there. And then here is the back. Now, and I'm just going to quickly read off what's on the back. Now at the top here is probably one of my favourite Doctor Who quotes of all time. I am playing with a fire so dangerous I could scorch eternity. The last words of a dying alien send the Doctor and Bernice to 30th century Earth in an attempt to avert an unspecified disaster. Before they can even unpack, they have been arrested by the adjudicators and sentenced to death by the Imperial Army. Their attempts to prove their innocence take them from the mosaic planet Purgatory to a prison inside a star. Meanwhile, adjudicators Ross Forrester and Christopher Quedge have their own problems. Investigating a series of apparently motiveless murders, they have stumbled upon a conspiracy with sinister overtones. On the run and out of luck, the only people they can turn to are their chief suspects, the Doctor and Bernice. As they run, someone is watching them, something who knows the Doctor of old. The New Doctor Who Adventures, full-length original novels based on the longest-running science fiction television series of all time, the BBC's Doctor Who. The New Adventures take the TARDIS into previously unexplored realms of space and time. After many years of writing book reviews, Andy Lane has now started to sell horror, science fiction and fantasy stories to American anthologies. He is the author of 2 previous New Adventure novels, Pacific Rising with Jim Mortimer and All-Consuming Fire with John H. Watson MD. Cover designs by Slater Anderson. Then you've got down here, you've got the recommended prices, each genre, which is science fiction TV tie-in. Then you've got the barcode down here. Then take a look at the inside of this book. First page is just a blank page of Original Sin, written up there. And here you've got an advertisement for other Virgin New Adventure novels, all the previous installments in the Virgin New Adventure series. And here you've got the New Doctor Who Adventures Original Sin, Andy Lane. Then here you've got various copyright thingamajigs, who this book is dedicated to, some acknowledgements, and then the start of the actual novel itself, which runs for 320 pages. And then at the back here you've got advertisements for the previous instalments of the Virgin New Adventures with brief blurbs on them, on all of them. So this is from Cat's Cradle Witchmark, all the way up until Human Nature. Interestingly enough, it doesn't do the previous Cat's Cradle books or the Time Room series for whatever reason. Also within this book, this is one of the few Virgin New Adventures that actually have illustrations. From what I know of, from what I remember, there are 2 illustrations in this book. One near the front of it, if I was just to find it, which is this really nice action pose here with Rosalind Forrester and Christopher Quedge in an action pose in front of this city. And then here you've got quite a humorous picture of Roz and Chris in the TARDIS. Now, all of that out of the way, what is the general consensus on this book and my own personal thoughts and opinions on this book? On Goodreads, this book has gotten a 3.75 out of 5 and a lot of positive reviews, quite a few 5 stars, well, 2 5 stars, 2 4 stars, and about 4 3 stars out of 5. Probably one of the best reviews I've seen on Goodreads. Basically sums up this book in a nutshell, and basically this is basically how the goodness of this book in a nutshell. A book that manages to take the less than stellar depiction of life in the 30th century, as seen in the 1972 story The Mutants, and flesh it out to considerable detail, drama and humour. It's a great production to 2 new companions, a great introduction to new companions, and it's one hell of a surprise sequel, especially the last character you will ever expect to feature in a Doctor Who sequel. I definitely do agree with the general consensus in my own personal opinion. I don't quite agree with that. Some people are giving it 3 stars out of 5. I'm personally one of those people that actually give it like 5 stars out of 5, to be honest. Starting off with the plot, I really do like the plot to this story. It's a very interesting and fascinating plot where the last words of dying aliens send the Doctor and Bernice to 30th century Earth in an attempt to avert an unspecified disaster, and then they get arrested by Rosalind Forrester and Christopher Quedge, and then gradually Rosalind Forrester and Christopher Quedge are forced to believe that the Doctor and Bernice Summerfield are the good guys, and it's overall very interesting plot. From what I remember, I can't remember too much about the plot at all, to be honest. I can't really remember what the plot was about. I think it involved some form of technology in a way, but I'm not quite sure. But the plot, from what I remember, is an extremely interesting plot in my personal opinion. And now I'm going to be going on to the structure of this book. This book is structured very nicely. It's spread over 320 pages with an epilogue, a prologue, well, let me check. Yeah, it's structured with a prologue and an epilogue, and I think about 17 chapters, and it's structured so that there's 17 chapters, a prologue and an epilogue over 20 pages, and in my personal opinion it's structured really nicely, whatnot. It's nice and evenly spread out across the 320 pages in this book, and I also like at the end of some of the chapters the surprise villain, the surprise return villain, which is mentioned on this blurb. Some chapters end with him watching the Doctor and Bernice and Rosalind and Chris on a monitor in his lair, and the villain is kept very in the shadows and kept very ominous and mysterious, and you generally don't have any ideas about what the villain is, and there's like vague descriptions given away, like plump hands, move at the controls, and whatnot. So there's like very vague details given out about the villain. So I would say Andy Lane did tease the villain extremely well, and I don't think the villain actually appeared until around page 280, page 300 even. So the villain does appear in the book, like he does make his appearance in the book, like very close to the end of the book, which is kind of nice in a way, to kind of like prolong the revealing of the villain, and then just like introduce him right at the end. I personally think that's a very wise choice by Andy Lane. So the structure overall is really good, and I will also say that the writing by Andy Lane is very good. It's given lots of detail and is extremely exciting, like the plump hands of the villain. And I would also say he captures the characters brilliantly. I would say that the writing of the villain is a bit not as good as its first story, because in that story is a lot more, because in his original story the villain is a lot more menacing and a lot more evil. In this book he's kind of soft in some ways, but at the same time still has like elements and echoes of his original kind of malevolent self. So yeah, the Doctor in this book is absolutely fantastic. So is Bernice, and so is Christopher Ross, who get some really nice developments in some places, and they are heavily focused on in this book quite a bit, because this is their introductory novel, and because of that it does get a bit kind of political with the law and whatnot in this book, because the profession of Chris and Roz are law adjudicators, and so it focuses down on the law, and so it does get a bit political in some places because of elements and stuff that there are in this book. And like also like lots of chapters, quite a few chapters end with Chris and Roz arresting various characters, so yeah, like the prologue scene for example, that has a really good scene where Chris and Roz arrest somebody, and then there's also some great emotional chemistry between them. So like at one point in this book Chris is involved in this hover vehicle accident, I think, and is badly injured, and there's a lot of sympathy shown to him by Roz, which is really nice to see. Nice bit of emotional chemistry in this book. So now I'm going to be going on to the spoiler kind of part of this book by talking about the villain and whatnot. So if you don't want to watch any spoilers in this review, go to that time about up there. So yeah. So yeah, now I'm going to be going on to the kind of spoilers of this book, which I'm only going to spoil in one thing, and that is the surprise return of a old Doctor Who villain, and the villain is Tobias Vaughan. Yes, Tobias Vaughan is the surprise return of this villain, and it is one villain you would not expect, because this book is set after the invasion, after he dies. So you may be like, how the hell is Tobias Vaughan in this? How the hell is Tobias Vaughan in this book? Basically, the explanation that is given in this book is that Tobias Vaughan whilst on Earth in the invasion and working for electromatics, or the International Electromatics in the invasion. So yeah, it said in this book that that during when he was working for International Electromatics in the invasion and working with the Cybermen and stuff, it is said that he has built various machines featuring other bodies of himself, so that if he was ever in danger of dying, he can always transfer the consciousness of himself into one of the new bodies using a wireless signal or something like that. So it is very interesting to see how Tobias Vaughan does come back in this novel, and here he's in this book. I would say that probably the only negative I have with this book is Tobias Vaughan's depiction. He isn't quite his villainous self as he was in the invasion. Here he's a bit more sympathetic in a way, and a bit more softer, so in a way a bit more manipulative as well, but at the same time he's still got that kind of edge of cynicalness, malevolentness and manipulativeness that the invasion version of Tobias Vaughan had. So I would say Andy Lane characterised Tobias Vaughan mostly well. If I was to actually kind of rate Andy Lane's kind of Tobias Vaughan depiction, it would be kind of like around a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. It's not perfect, and there is this kind of bit of a softer side to Tobias Vaughan, which I guess in a way is good because it gets to show that Tobias Vaughan is not all guns blazing, all outright malevolent, and all outright an evil motherfucker. So in a way it does get to show how Tobias Vaughan can be a bit of a sympathetic villain as well, which I do kind of like. But at the same time I'm not 100% sure on. I feel like he should have just been his malevolent self, just like because I felt like the nature of this book and the kind of premise of it should have had that instead of the version of Tobias Vaughan we got in this book instead, in my personal opinion. And now what are my overall conclusions on Original Sin by Andy Lane? In my personal opinion, this is an absolute classic of a Virgin New Adventure novel in my personal opinion. This is one of my favourite Doctor Who books of all time, and this book almost gets a 10 out of 10, but because of the characterisation of the surprise return villain not being perfect and slightly disagreeable with, I'm going to give Original Sin by Andy Lane a 9.5 out of 10. This is an absolutely incredible Doctor Who book in my personal opinion, and I would just highly recommend this book as an overall enjoyable read, and I would say this is a pretty good introduction story to the Virgin New Adventures and Doctor Who books as a whole, really, because it's an companion introduction story, and also that this and also because that this book is not really extremely complicated in any ways. So yeah, I would overrate Original Sin a 9.5 out of 10. Very good book, and it is a good starter book if you're wanting to get into the Doctor Who books, in my own personal opinion. So yeah, overall I'd rate Original Sin a 9.5 out of 10, and it's one of my favourite Doctor Who books of all time. And that pretty much concludes the Skulls General Reviews episode 9, Original Sin by Andy Lane. So like and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Pitch Got Black, Dematerializing.